Because of climate change, temperatures around the whole world start rising so high that they melt all the poles. Soon continents get flooded and dangerous things are released from the melted ice like methane, viruses, and bacteria. The government builds rockets to escape to space, although only politicians and the elite get tickets. However, there isn't anything like Earth close enough for rocket travel, so they die of cosmic radiation or killing each other when resources run short. Earth is now a post-apocalyptic land and the remaining survivors live in settlements on top of mountains where contamination can't reach them. Eva lives in a bunker built by her father with a military robot named Arthur. He's in rather bad shape because he fought in the climate wars, but her dad reprogrammed him to protect her. Eva likes having someone to talk to, but Arthur doesn't understand things like jokes or empathy. Whenever Eva leaves for the city to look for supplies, Arthur reminds her that it's dangerous because the area is contaminated and that she doesn't drink water there. After putting on a mask connected to an oxygen tank, Eva takes her old truck to the abandoned city. At the supermarket, she grabs anything useful she can find, and today she's surprised to see a bag of lavender seeds. Before going home, she paints her bunker coordinates on a wall in case other survivors need help. Later at the bunker, Arthur asks Eva for the password before letting her in since his main duty is to guard the place. In fact, Eva has to say Scarlet every time she crosses the perimeter, even if it's just to take things from the truck and Arthur can still see it's her. The bunker has a shower at the entrance so Eva can decontaminate before going inside. She spends her time using her radio to try to find survivors, taking care of her plants, organizing supplies, exercising, listening to music, and playing with a set of balls. Arthur always stays outside patrolling no matter the time of the day, and a password book is kept hanging on the fridge door. The next morning Eva works on repairs while exchanging riddles with Arthur. Usually the robot is the one to win, but today Eva finally thinks of a riddle that Arthur can't answer. Then Eva jokes about them getting married and Arthur points out it's nonsensical. This causes Eva to go on a rant about how reality is nonsensical nowadays and her unbearable loneliness. When Arthur asks where her father is and why he hasn't come back, she remembers the day her dad left her with Arthur and promised to come back soon, but he never did. Eva asks Arthur if he wants to marry her, but Arthur says a simple system failure could cause relationship issues. Eva thinks there's nothing about him she can't replace and wonders if she's the only person left in the world. She tells Arthur that she painted her information on a wall in the city and he can't understand why because he thinks if there were survivors they would have already left signs. When Eva asks him about the laws of robotics, Arthur goes through them quickly. Robots can't hurt humans on purpose or by omission. Robots must always obey humans unless it goes against the first law, and robots must always protect themselves unless it goes against the first two laws. Then Eva points out that for Arthur to protect its own existence, he should find new power sources. She's been using solar panels from decades ago and wonders why it has to be her job to do maintenance. Arthur reminds her he's a patrol robot, not an assembling one, so his job is to stop intruders from entering the bunker. His definition of intruder is anyone who doesn't know the password, which angers Eva. She goes on another rant about the climate wars, remembering how northern countries used robots to protect their borders and not let anyone pass, which in her opinion caused human extinction. She thinks this programming goes against the laws of robotics because if a refugee comes by seeking water, Arthur won't help them. If she could, Eva would reprogram Arthur to make him a domestic robot instead. Arthur can't believe the stories he's hearing about robots hurting humans during war, so Eva explains he used to be an army soldier too and her father reset his memories when he found him. Afterward Eva finishes doing some connections for extra solar panels, hoping this year she can hang some Christmas lights for the holidays. She wants to give Arthur a present, but he says robots don't get gifts. Eva admits she wouldn't know what to give to a robot without likes and dislikes and says it would be very helpful if he could pretend to be human every now and then. Sometime later Arthur surprises Eva by saying he wants his broken eye replaced for Christmas. He also wants the answer to the riddle he couldn't solve, but Eva says the point is for him to think about it. In the evening Eva takes out the Christmas decorations but gets distracted when he notices Arthur acting weird during his prattle. This causes some decorations to fall off the table and break. The next day Eva announces she'll go to the city to find a plastic Christmas tree. She crosses the perimeter to get the gas can and when she tries to go back to her truck, Arthur asks for the password. However, when Eva says Scarlet, Arthur says it's incorrect and points a gun at her. Eva tries again but Arthur won't move even though he admits he recognizes her as Eva. He explains the password has changed and Eva remembers it happens every 3 months. Today it's the start of a new password cycle but she lost track of time and the password book is inside the bunker. She goes through the steps of the procedure allowed to prove her identity and even orders Arthur to let her pass, yet Arthur won't budge. Furious, Eva yells as she throws the gas can in frustration. Then she repeats all the passwords they've used to this day, but none of them work. She keeps trying to reason with Arthur, pointing out he knows who she is and that she'll die out there if he doesn't let her pass. Since he doesn't move she tries to walk in anyway, only for Arthur to point the gun at her again. Realizing he'll actually shoot her if he has to, a horrified Eva moves to hide behind a generator while always making sure to keep an eye on Arthur's position and patrolling route. She waits for a few hours before trying again, saying hello and talking about the weather as if nothing had happened. Arthur chats normally, but when Eva tries to cross the perimeter, he asks for the password again. She tells him she only wants an axe to go get the Christmas tree, however Arthur mentions that there are no trees left. Since he keeps calling her Eva, she points out he clearly recognizes her. She talks about all the days they've been together and how she only needs to go inside to get the notebook. She also points out that killing goes against the laws of robotics. Yet Arthur says he isn't allowed to kill humans, he only kills intruders. And an intruder is anyone who doesn't know the password. If a person can't give him the correct password, that person can't be Eva, however he keeps calling her by her name. With nothing else to do, Eva hides behind the generator again. When night falls, she starts throwing rocks at Arthur to distract him. He takes a look around when he notices the rocks but never leaves his spot. The next day Eva turns her jacket inside out and covers her face with the hood before approaching the bunker. Arthur immediately calls her Eva, but she says that's not her name. She pretends to be a refugee asking for asylum and mentions Article 14 of the Universal Human Rights, which says any human can ask for asylum in case of persecution. The robot agrees, however he needs permission from his owner, so he tells her she can find Eva behind the generator. Eva hides to change her clothes to look as usual and comes out to ask Arthur if anything new happened. When she hears about the refugee, she tells him to let her pass. Then she hides to put on the refugee costume and tries again. This time Arthur is willing to let her come in, but first he needs to go through a few protocol questions. He asks what kind of refugee she is, since political refugees have rights but climate refugees do not. Eva obviously answers political and Arthur asks for proof of persecution. Eva can't believe what she's hearing and makes up a story about the war in her country killing all her family and burning her house, so she has nothing. Next he asks for her documents or the paperwork done at the borders granting her refugee status. She says she already filled out all the paperwork and asks for water, but Arthur says he must always give water to Eva first. Seeing they're going in circles, Eva leaves and spends the night behind the generator. In the morning, Eva wakes up feeling very weak. She goes to sit in front of Arthur, who asks how it's possible for her to be the last person on Earth if yesterday he saw an intruder and a refugee. He theorizes that there must be more humans in the power plant because if there's power, then someone is doing maintenance at the plant. Eva explains robots are doing it, but Arthur doesn't understand why they would work for nobody. Before answering that, Eva asks for water, but Arthur says he can't take anything from the base without authorization. Getting angrier, Eva starts ranting against robots. She says the power plant is still working because a robot as stupid as Arthur can't do anything except follow their programming. To close the plant it had to activate the protocol, which ended with a message that said please confirm you aren't a robot, which obviously that robot worker couldn't do. Arthur doesn't see this as a problem because a robot capable of lying shouldn't be responsible for dangerous facilities and never reveals he wasn't able to get her riddle because the answer involves lying, which he can't even start to comprehend. After taking a short rest, Eva remembers something and runs to her truck. She finds the water can in the engine, but when she tries to drink, there's nothing left. Eva throws the bottle at Arthur in frustration before resting again and is shocked to find the bag of lavender seeds on the ground. With just a little hole in the dirt, she plants the seeds and waters them with the few drops of water she has left. Then Eva tries to offer the answer to the riddle in exchange for going inside or at least getting some water, but Arthur still refuses. Getting desperate, she checks the oxygen tank in her truck and notices it has 18% left. Hoping it's enough, she gets in the truck and drives all the way to the power plant. She takes the stairs to the top of a cooling tower, then she climbs down using ropes to get inside. Luckily the door isn't locked and Eva manages to get into the actual plant. She goes through dozens of rooms while keeping an eye on her oxygen level, desperately searching for water. Eventually she finds a map of the plant and follows it until she finally finds the supply room, but the door is locked. At that moment her oxygen runs out, so she takes the mask off. Then she grabs an axe and hits the door with it to destroy it. Eva rushes into the supply room and is devastated to discover all the bottles are empty. After crying for a while, Eva starts making her way out. She comes across a bathroom and notices a few water drops in the shower, but it's not enough. In the evening, Eva arrives at the bunker. She stares at Arthur for a moment and decides to take the risk. The truck speeds up toward the bunker and Arthur immediately opens fire, forcing Eva to jump out of the vehicle. A few more shots make the truck explode, causing a huge fire and several wounds for Eva. She destroys her jacket to create a bandage for her arm and passes out because of the heat. The next morning the fire is out and Eva is so weak she can barely move. She drags her body on the ground until she can rest against the solar panels. Arthur comes closer to inform her that an intruder tried to destroy the bunker last night and is now hiding behind the generator with the refugee. Eva tries to tell him it was all her, but Arthur insists he doesn't make mistakes. Sometime later Eva is shocked to see her dad approaching her to offer water, but she's hallucinating because of the heat and it's actually Arthur. He says she can go inside if she tells him the password and ignores her plea for water, so she passes out. A few hours later Eva wakes up when she feels water drops falling on her face. She realizes it's raindrops that got stuck on the solar panel and immediately gathers them to drink them, but they're disgusting and she has to spit them. Eva wonders if Arthur would take care of her if they were married and he says yes, but it's impossible to do it now because she'll die very soon. This would make him a robot widower, and he doesn't know what a robot widower is supposed to do, which he considers a worse problem than her death. His words make her have a breakdown. Sometime later, a new hallucination takes over Eva's mind. She sees herself in perfect condition standing in the city while hearing the laughter of children. Arthur snaps her out of it when he asks for the answer to the riddle, saying she's dying anyway. Eva forces her body to stand up just to give Arthur the finger before collapsing. The hallucination returns, but Eva refuses to die yet, saying she must find a way to defeat the machine. She asks about an emergency mode, and Arthur explains that will only activate when she dies, calling it a good solution. He points out that she can die in peace because the refugee and the intruder will rebuild society. With her last breath, Eva asks him to take care of her lavender seeds, and then she dies. Arthur says that lavender is the right password and goes back to his patrol. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.